Hello! In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to use a digital test report from MyAacademicApproach. First, log into your account using your username and password. Your username is typically your school email, and password is default to password1 with a capital P. If you're having trouble, click the Forgot Password link at the bottom.
First, click the Practice Test button.
This page will show all the digital test events for your program. To select a test, click on the box in its corresponding row.
Then click Report next to the green arrow.
The digital testing report has two sections, score tables and performance tables. We'll begin on score tables in the recent scores table, which will detail an average for the composite and subject scores of all students in the view and break down those composite and subject scores by student below. Each subsequent table will break down that particular score on average and by student.
You can adjust this report by clicking to include students with a score, which will include only students who finished all sections of the test, students with any engagement, which includes any student who began the assessment, or all students, which will include any student, even if they haven't completed the test. By clicking on column visibility, you can show columns that are hidden by default. Each table will start with an average of all the students that are currently viewed, and then break down each individual student. By clicking the document, you can generate an individual report for that student that highlights all of their score and answer choices. In each subject table, you can show a column for student benchmarks. You can adjust the benchmarks in the top of the page. The default benchmark is the benchmark set by the test. By clicking Create Cohort for Comparison, you can separate out individual groups to compare within the same test event. By default, all programs have class year groups. You can talk to your program manager about setting up additional groups for your school. In all of the tables, you can click the CSV link to generate a spreadsheet that you can download that will capture the information currently on view in the table. In the performance tables, student data will be shown by percent accuracy. The by assessment portion will group all students together by subject. On the ACT report, the subjects are color-coded in the performance table section. Yellow for English, blue for math, orange for reading, and purple for science. On the SAT, the color code will not correspond to the subjects, but to the modules. Module 1 will be yellow, Module 2 lower will be blue, and Module 2 upper will be tan for both the reading and writing and the math section. You can view individual groups' performance, and you can change the standards the test will display in the topic system. CCRS or ACT standards, CCSS or Common Core standards, and SAT standards for the paper and pencil and digital SCT, as well as the lesson families we use in the academic approach curriculum. The by student table will show overall accuracy by a particular student. At any point in the performance tables, clicking the people icon will generate a list of the students in that row. The by student table will generate a list of students and their overall accuracy on the test. Clicking the graph will display that student's performance across each section in the test. Clicking the item icon will open an individual item report for that student. At any point in the performance tables, you can click these black filter icons that will lock that row across all performance tables. By locking student A, you can view their assessment average only. To unlock, click the X by the active filter. On the SAT report, showing all columns in the by student table will show the path a student has taken through the test. Each student will take Section 1, Module 1, but Section 1, Module 2 will either be upper or lower, and the same for Section 2, Math. The by topic table will break down items by the standards selected in the topic system. CCRS will break down the test into the ACT standards using the standard code, band, and standard. This table has the item icon, the student view icon, and a potential gain column that will give an average of available points in that particular row. For example, there are an average of 30 points to be gained in the English section overall, 5.8 of those points on average coming from the sentence construction standard.
This is a raw score. This is not a scaled score. If you're unfamiliar with raw score, think of it like the number of questions a student could answer on that test.
By showing all columns, this topic table will reveal the item numbers that correspond to each row on view. On the SAT, there will also be a difficulty column, which gives the number of easy, medium, and hard questions on that row. By item table will list every test item with its correct answer, overall accuracy, and spread of answer choices. It will also have the standard to that question filtered through the topic system. It will also have the average engagement time on that question. This table is best used in conjunction with the by topic or by student table once you've locked a particular standard or student. In the item analysis table, or in any item analysis view, clicking on the eye icon will display the question, the answer, and the explanation. This gives you immediate access to the test item for review. The item table will also allow you to sort by accuracy. By clearing all filters or filter locking certain subjects, sorting by accuracy allows you to view which questions all or most students can gain points on, or by sorting top down, show you questions that all or most students are answering correctly and you can skip in your review. On the SAT, the by item table will show the difficulty of each item, easy, medium, or hard. On the SAT Math item review, you can view student-produced responses by clicking on the people icon. By clicking Export Data, you can export spreadsheets of the raw data from this test. Student scores will generate an Excel with each student in their row and their composite and subject scores broken out. Student by module will generate an Excel with each student in their row and their accuracy in the module by corresponding column. The by topic and the by item tables will break out student performance by larger topics or item numbers. The assessment info will generate an Excel with all the test items, their correct answers, and their relevant standards.
Let's see these reports in action. Let's say I am an ACT math teacher trying to get the most impactful lesson I can. I can go to Math, look at potential gain. Here, my geometry band has the highest potential gain points of any subject. I can expand to that subject. There are 4.5 points to gain in this band of skills. The standard that jumps out to me is standard 604. I can look at the standard, which is about trigonometry, solve right triangle problems. And then I can look at the questions by looking at the info. From here, I can grab those questions and review them, and I can assign a mastery quiz to my students to give them additional practice after our lesson. I can see this is the most impactful skill because none of my students answered this question correctly. So we have the most points to gain. Now let's say I'm doing an SAT course and I have a lesson plan for grammar, usage, and mechanics. I can expand and lock my usage and mechanics topic and then sort items by accuracy, finding the items that I need to review the most, like Section 1, Module 1, an item that everyone saw that had low accuracy, just a run-on sentence question. Now I know in my lesson I really want to focus on run-on sentences. I can also go to the higher accuracy questions and see some of my verb questions were at 100% accuracy, and some of my sentence construction questions were at higher accuracy. I can see this question, which is about introductory commas, was at 100% accuracy, meaning when I'm reviewing my sentence construction lesson or my commas lesson, I don't have to spend as much time reviewing the skill, which is already at very high fidelity with my students. These reports can help you gain valuable insight into the performance of your students across specific standards quite quickly and make the most use of your instructional time and pinpoint the areas your students can grow the most in. And that's everything you need to know to use the digital test report through MyAcademicApproach.